everybody. My name is Cynthia Gallardo with Legacy and Me podcast, and I am Cynthia Gallardo, your leading legacy lawyer. And I have with me today a fantastic friend of mine who is actually referred to me from another fantastic friend named Frank Contreras. So I did want to just let you all know, thank you so much for being here with us today. You are in for a real treat. To hear about the story from Jermaine, or AKA Jay Hunt. So I'll share a little bit with you about my mission and then why I have Jermaine on the show today, or Jay on the show today. So my name is Cynthia Gallardo, as I mentioned, and I am your leading legacy lady. And it is my mission to make sure that I work with entrepreneurs such as Jay to launch, build, and protect and preserve their legacy. And part of that, as with the Legacy and Me podcast, is to make sure that their story is carried on from generation to generation. And that's why we do what we do. We're able to help protect and preserve that legacy, in this case, in the form of a podcast, which you will be able to view anytime you want to, because we'll be able to provide the video and the transcript as well, with all the contact information for Mr. J. So we'll go ahead and get started here. As I mentioned, I do have Mr. Jay Hunt. He is owner and CEO of Hunt Services and Consulting LLC. He has 5 beautiful children and an amazing, supportive wife. He currently lives in Illinois, is a resident of Illinois. And I'm so curious to find out a little bit more about you, Jay. If you wanted to share with us a little bit about your business, what you do, what you offer, and then we'll go into a few other questions, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Well, Hunt Services and Consulting is a business solution and performance company. It's the first of its kind, owned by a Black-owned owner. We based ours off consulting, which do special consulting, which involves consulting for business solutions, labor management, operation management, and things like that. But also we do cost per unit, CPU. And CPU, most people don't understand what CPU is. Really piece count, in which we focus on performance, efficiency, throughput, and cost savings. So we're able to save companies at least 10% of their costs over. Yes. My partners and I, we've worked in a lot of different areas, and we saved our clients millions of dollars. So it's a high level way of performance. It's very engineer based, high touch, and that's one of the things that we do. And also what we do, we help companies start. If a person want to start their company and just don't have the direction, so we walk them through it, and we hold their hand, and we make sure they got all the things that's required in order to be a legal company. So that's one of the things. And then we work with non-for-profit organizations in which we help them obtain grants. And then we do the representation for them during the allotment, and we follow up with them, and we follow up with the grant holders to make sure that the grant is secure. So we do a lot of things like that.
Wow.
Yes.
That's fantastic, Jay. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, you touched my heart with so many areas there. First of all, that you help nonprofit, right? Because many nonprofits don't know what direction to take. And then also with the law, because I also assist others in launching and building their legacy or their business. And so I'm so glad that we have that in common as well. And it's very important. I always tell people this: when you get to the point that you know you want to do something, you have a goal, surround yourself with individuals that have been there and done that. So in this case, you, they'd want to surround themselves with you because you've been there and done that and can assist to catapult their business forward. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jay. I really appreciate that. And you have many things to offer. So many people out there as entrepreneurs. So I definitely want people to touch base with you, jump in and be able to work with you, partner with you, collaborate with you. Because there's a saying out there right now, especially for 2023, we want to make sure that it's collaboration is the new currency, right? Collaboration is the new currency. It's no longer about competition. It's about collaborating each other out. So that's great that you feel the same way as well. Now, Jay, I do want to ask you, because this is all about legacy, right? So many people, they think legacy. So what exactly is a legacy? So I'd like to know, what is your definition of legacy? How would you define it? The Jay Hunt definition.
You know what? My definition of legacy is to leave this place we call earth and home better than what I found it. And that's including, even if I have to sacrifice myself in certain aspects to make sure the next generation have an opportunity, resources, and the avenues to go ahead and do what they want to do to be successful. Because at the end of the day, it's all about being progressive. And if we're not being progressive, we're being regressive. And, we've come too far to be regressive. So what I really want to do, my legacy is to make it a little bit better for those who come behind me.
I love that.
Thank you. And if they choose to follow my footsteps, I want to make sure that I leave a blueprint so they can understand what is all involved in order to be progressive.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jay. I really appreciate it. And what you mentioned about, leaving a foundation or blueprint for individuals, it's leaving that positive mark, right, with individuals so that they can better themselves. And you're doing that now, but then you're also helping preserve it in the future as well. So that's great that you're doing that. The other thing I want to commend you because you're already doing that. You're a trailblazer now in what you do, because like you said, you're the first Black owned business in this type of consulting with the CPUs and things like that. So that's fantastic, Jay, that you're doing that. And that's leaving a positive mark. So when you think about legacy, as Jay mentioned, it's about leaving that mark, being a trailblazer, right? Leaving a positive impact on those that have come before us. We learn from them, and then leaving that positive mark for those that come after us. And so when I think about legacy as well, I think about those lessons learned that you share with other individuals to make sure that they can better themselves, right? It's not, a lot of people think legacy equals material assets, but it's not about that. It's about learning from other individuals as well. So thank you once again for sharing your insight regarding the word legacy and what it means to you. And when we think about legacy, Jay, we think about past, present, and future, right? So in this case, I'd love to hear about your past. What past or what's your history that has led you to this particular point?
Wow. Okay. Okay. So, what led me to my past? I come from humble beginnings. My mom was a nurse. My biological dad, was a mechanic, and my stepfather was a superintendent. My father and my stepfather, one thing they was very adamant about is two things. If you want it, you go get it, no excuses. And number two, you got to roll up your sleeves and tighten up your shoelaces and go to work. You got to go to work. And so when you want something, you got to envision it. And then in order to get it, you got to go to work for it. So those are two things that they always drilled to me. Hey, if you want this, work for it. But be smart about it. Learn everything about the aspect of it. So when I was younger, I used to work at a ranch. I love horses. Oh, I love horses. So I actually worked at a ranch, and that helped me understand the meaning of hard work. If anybody ever worked on a farm or a ranch, there's no lazy people there. You gotta work. You gotta work.
That's right.
And yeah, you gotta work. And my stepfather used to always tell me, hey, listen, no matter what you do, be smart about whatever you do. Make sure you know the ins and outs of it, so that way you can understand how it operates. So my mother, she was very, very, very strong. So the legacy and things that I learned from my family. My family is very unique. My great-grandfather, back in the early 1900s, he bought a lot of land. And his legacy, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. So my great-grandfather bought a lot of land in the South during the early 1900s, late 1800s. And his legacy was that his children would never have to pay taxes, or his descendants never have to pay taxes, and always have a place that they can call home. So we fast forward to my grandmother. Now her legacy was all her children, and you got to think about this, was the 40s, 50s, and 60s. All her children graduate high school, go to the military, or go to college. That was her legacy. So that set a standard. My mother's legacy was college is not a dream or a hope. It is the standard. So all of my cousins, all of my brothers and sisters, we all had to go to college. And that was her legacy. No matter what it took, we have pulled together as a family. And if you want to go ahead and pursue a higher education, go ahead and pursue it. That's your right. That's your birthright to get a higher education. And so, and my legacy is going to be to create a platform or create avenues to give resources to family and friends and those who want it, and start getting to the point where you could be, if you like, to start being, instead of employees, be employers. You
Okay.
know, if that's the value that you want, if that's the value that you see that's added to your life and that's what you want for your life, that's my goal. So my legacy would be to be able to create avenues for resources to become entrepreneurs. Um, I played sports, and that taught me discipline and meaning of teamwork. I played music, which taught me how to listen and watch at the same time. I've learned a foreign language, which taught me to think outside the box. And so, yeah, so with those involved, hard work, dedication, discipline, listening, understanding, commitment, consistency. Those things brought me to the point where I am today. Um, some lessons in life that I learned is it was necessary, but it wasn't easy. But if you want success, it's never easy. It comes with discipline and long hours. And Cynthia, you're an attorney. You just can't walk in and say, I'm going to be a lawyer today. No, ma'am, it does not work like that. You have to,
Exactly. It takes time.
it takes time and discipline and
Yes.
focus. You might want to go out and have fun. You can't do that because you always have to think about the end game. What is the end game? What did I say my first goal was, my short-term goal, my midterm goal, my long-term goal, and my end game? And how do I acquire those? And which one of those, during the process, which life is a process, during this process, I have to trust it and I have to accomplish the small goals so the bigger goals could become more attainable. So with that being said, that was part of the things that I've learned during my life. Just like anyone else, I've had ups, downs, moments of happiness, moments of sadness, and it's just part of life. Um, I watch the sacrifices of my family um, so that we can have a better opportunity. I've really literally watched my mom, drive, 30, 40 miles to work, get snowed in, and just about had to sleep in her car, and just so that she could provide for us. She was very, she is, she's very disciplined, and one thing I love about her, she does not take excuses.
Um,
Uh, it's one of her favorite phrases and one of my friend's favorite phrases, and when he said it, it just brought back memories to me. Excuses are the nails that built the house of failure.
oh, I
So
love that. Wow.
yes, so there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. But if you come with excuses, my mother would not hear that. Matter of fact, you might make her upset because she's gonna be like, "That's an excuse. I'm not trying to hear that." Now, what's
Wow.
the reason? If you don't have a legitimate reason, then go back and do it correctly. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, she's definitely close to my heart already, Jay, because I have a saying as well, results, not excuses. And it's gotten me through high school, college, graduate school, law school. And it's really not accepting excuses from ourselves first, right?
ourselves.
Because we could be our own worst
Exactly.
enemy, but also from others. So that's great that I look forward to meeting her one day, definitely, Jay. I'm meeting your mom. So tell her she has a kindred spirit in me, just knowing that about her. So that's great.
Absolutely. And you know, she had two kids, myself and my brother. Um, and with her discipline and her ability not to accept excuses, um, one of the beautiful things is we had a successful life. My brother was deputy chief of police here in this area. Yeah, matter of fact, he's just retired, and I own a business. And so it feels good to hear her say, "My boys actually did this,"
Yes.
And as a parent now, I really I'm really starting to understand when you put your long hours in, and that's the result. So getting back on topic, my legacy and how to get to this point. Um, I had a lot of influential people in my life. A lot of people um, who made personal sacrifices from the classrooms to outside of classrooms, family members who sacrificed a lot for my success. And I want to make sure that not only I pay them back, but I pay it forward because it's my responsibility. I owe them that to make sure that the lessons I learned, um, the blessings that I've had, that I don't be selfish and keep them to myself. They're not mine to keep. They were just mine to pass along.
That's great.
So with that, yeah. So, and one of the biggest things that I tell my children, and which helped me, and because my mom used to drill this into me all the time, and my oldest brother to be smart, make the right decisions. Matter of fact, the book that I'm working on is called "You're Not a Product of Your Environment. You're the Result of Your Decisions." And
Oh,
I've met people who grew up with silver spoons in their mouths and never amounted to a lot in life. And I met people who barely had heat in their homes and ended up becoming great people. It's not because they were talented or more talented. They made the best decision for themselves. And I tell my kids all the time, Einstein and Stephen Hawking is probably the smartest people that we know that lived, but they're not the richest. Decision makers such as Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and people like that who made decisions on a high scale, they became more successful financially if that's what you're looking for. So with that being said, I just tell people make the best decision. Just make the best decision. So of course, being young, you make bad decisions. It happens. But what did you learn from that? And what do you take from that? And what can you teach others from that? And with
yes.
that being said, that helped me along. And holding myself accountable. Um, when at one point in life, everybody does this. They blame somebody else for their failures. Of course we do. But once you get to the point and a space in your life where you hold yourself accountable, you understand that where you went wrong and you make sure that you don't do that again, that changes the perception of what life is and it changes the direction of your life. Because
Yes.
now you have to make sure that you hold yourself accountable. And once you hold yourself accountable, now you can attain the goals. You have to look at it realistically. What did I do wrong? How can I get better? So, and that was all part of it. So, discipline, fantastic people around me, sacrifices people made, life lessons that was taught to me. Those are all things that helped me become the person that I am today.
Wow, that's great, Jay. First of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing that part of your story with us, like the past and what has led you to this particular point. And it definitely sounds like you had a strong foundation, which you appreciate. So there's a lot of times that people have that strong foundation, but they truly don't appreciate it, as you mentioned in your comment. But what you're doing is you're paying it forward because you're expanding on that legacy. So I do want to commend you for that. That is fantastic. And I encourage you to continue with that vision that you have, because many people out there need you to guide them and to service them. So definitely, I want to encourage that. Some of the few things that I picked up, a few of the things of the many nuggets you shared with us, which I appreciate, and it will be in the transcript for people as well. But I'm a note taker, a copious note taker. I have here, first of all, you have to want it, then you have to go get it, right? And then you have to be smart about it when you do it.
Absolutely.
And making the right decision. So each of us has a personal responsibility to make the right decision. And if we all make mistakes, I think of my 5-year-old son when he was a toddler, he'd fall down many times, but he always got back up. And that's what we as adults need to remember. Just get back up if you fall. It's okay. Just get back up and keep
It's okay
going.
to fail.
Yeah, that's right. It's okay. Just keep on going. So, and I love what you said about a vision, because once again, I use my son a lot as an example, because he puts things in his mind and he doesn't care about the steps to get there. He just knows he has to get there and he does it. He just jumps in and does it. And one of his favorite trees is behind our house, and he climbs that tree as if it were nothing. But he didn't think about, oh, I have to put my foot here, my foot there. He just started
Exactly.
climbing. So that's what we as entrepreneurs have to do and encourage others to do. Just get started. You want to do it, just get started doing it. Now, I am very curious about this. You mentioned about your great grandfather that he had in the South, that he had purchased a lot of land. Tell me a little bit more about that, how that's helped your family from a legacy perspective.
You know what? Wow, it helps in so many ways. We as a family, we know that if push comes to shove, worst case scenario, we always have a rest table. Okay, we know that we always have somewhere we can go. But on a higher level, on a 30,000-foot level, it taught us to prepare for the future. Whether you enjoy the benefits or not, it doesn't matter. What does matter is you laid the foundation so that way your future generation can have something to build off of. That one person, and my favorite quote is this: if you can just save one person. You heard that quote before,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I love that quote. Yes.
But do you know the second part?
What is
because
that?
that one person might change the world.
Oh, there you
So
go.
yeah, so if you can save one person, that one person might be able to save the world. So with that being said, he made it to the point where he could save his family, and that way one of his family members or descendants would be able to change the direction of our family.
That's
So
great.
and it taught us, yes, so and it taught us be prepared, be financially responsible, lay a foundation. And the beautiful thing about this is, so when people come cut trees, he put in the contract that not only they when they cut trees they have to pay for it, and that pay for the taxes. So we don't pay taxes on it, but they had to replant the tree. So
Oh.
it's always replenished. Yes. Yes.
Wow,
So
Jay, that's amazing, especially because it was in the 1900s, as you mentioned, right? And what a visionary your great grandfather was. That is amazing. That's great. Well, I'm glad that you, as a family, you and your family, you have that strong foundation to work with, and now you're sharing that with other people so that they can think about that in their future legacy as well. So thank you so
exactly.
much for sharing that. And I love what you said about your great grandfather, your grandmother, and also your mom and your dad, your biological dad, and your stepdad as well. All of these are the ingredients, right, that make you who you are, and that you can then carry
Absolutely.
on to future generations. So, thank you once again for your authenticity and sharing that with us. Thank you very much. So now we know a little bit about your past, Jay. So, what about the present? What are the things you're doing now? You've taken all these lessons learned, and where are you now?
Okay, so to explain where I am now, I have to tell you exactly where I started. Okay,
Okay,
so
great.
when I left when I left Arkansas, I went to the school at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia, Arkansas. When I left there, I did music for a while. Actually owned a record label. We did music, and a documentary was done on me for being the first artist to record a hip hop album in the state of Arkansas.
Oh,
So,
wow.
thank
Congratulations.
you, thank you. And so, at the time, my grandmother was getting sick. She had Alzheimer's.
Oh,
And, our family, we do not believe in putting our elders in nursing homes. We just do not believe in that. We believe that we pull together and we take care of our own. So, as a responsibility, my mom called me one day. She's like, no, my brother actually called me, like, grandmother's sick. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know what you have to do? I'm like, I know, I'll be home. And he's like, yes, we need you. And so I was like, that's fine. And at the time I was engaged to my son and daughter mother. And I talked to her and I told her, I have to go home. And at the time she wasn't prepared to leave, but I knew what I had to do because that was my obligation and my responsibility.
right.
So I left and came home. And when I came home, I'm like, okay, I need a job, right? Excuse me. So I got a job working at a place called Del Monte. And just as I started working there, it was a performance group that came in. They called In Group. And In Group, they are performance-based CPU company. And so I
Okay.
met with the vice president. As I was walking past, they was just coming in, implementing their processes, and he was like, "So what do you think about it?" Well, he didn't know I went to school for economics because he saw me as a guy who just started there through a temp service, cleaning floors, but he didn't understand I have children to take care of, so I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that they are taken care of. But he didn't know at the time he didn't know the level of my intelligence. So
Mm.
after we talked, and I went back to work, he found me and he was like, Jay, right? I'm like, yes. He's like, here's my card, here's my home number, call me. Well, that call lasted about 10 years. And he
Wow.
taught me, yes, he taught me every aspect of operations. And one of my mentors, Jim Rossini, he's a CEO of his own company right now, and he taught me every aspect of operations, performance, and he taught me exactly how to do layouts. I mean, so the account that we started off, Del Monte was losing about roughly six to $800,000 a month. When we came and did our implementations and we took over operations, they gained in a couple of months $800,000. It's a $1.6 million turnaround. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations for that. Oh my goodness.
Yes. So with that being said, and then he he taught me not just operation and production, but he promoted me to operation manager. I was a performance manager, and he promoted me to operation manager at Sony in Chicago, at their warehouse. So then that was the logistics and shipping and receiving. So I learned that account, and then he transferred me to Virginia to be the performance manager slash operation manager at Ace Hardware in Virginia, in Norfolk, Virginia. Yes. And then I was also the operations slash performance manager at Honda Lock in Atlanta, Georgia. So I had the 4 accounts, right, that I worked at
Oh,
within group and learned all types of operations. So with that being said, one day they had lost the account, and I was getting ready to drive back home from Virginia. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't want to put myself in this position again. I want to work for myself. And that's a long drive from Virginia to Illinois. It's about 18 hours. And I had so I had 18 hours to really have a conversation with myself. And
right.
they say the long, yeah, if you talk to yourself, don't answer it. And I was answering. There's some things I needed to know.
Well, obviously it was a life-changing journey, Jay. Life-changing, that's for sure.
It was. It was. So when they lost the count, a company called Horde Services, which is another performance company. Now, In Group and Horde are number 1 and number 2 in North America as far as performance and CPU. I mean, that's the creme de la creme, you know. So a friend of mine that used to work with me at In Group actually started working for Horde in Colorado, and he called me. He was saying, why don't you try talking to Horde? So I called a guy named Juan Ospina, one of the best phone calls I ever had. And he was like, hey, we got the Del Monte account in Illinois. What do you think about coming back? And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, I can do that as long as the price is right. I mean, for the right money, we can talk. So, I mean, you got to know your value. You got to know your value.
That is so true, Jay.
You got to know what you're worth. And so when I went back, I talked to Juan and Jared Horde and Dwayne Horde, and they welcomed me aboard, and they were fantastic. I'm talking about class act. Both In Group and Horde are class acts. So working with Horde, Juan became my mentor. Now remember, Jim taught me operations and business solutions, but Juan taught me business. He literally taught me business. I went to school for business, but there's a difference between an application. The theory is one thing, but the application is totally different.
Oh,
So he taught me the application.
I just want to jump in with that because you're so true. It's all theory is what we learn at school or university, college, law school, but put it in practice is a whole different ball game, right? A whole different avenue. So I'm glad you brought that up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to hear more about your story. So go ahead.
So I worked with Juan closely, and even to this day, Jim and Juan and I are very good friends. Juan taught me business. He had to understand clients, how to acquire accounts, how to make sure how to not just think outside the box. You don't think outside the box. You create your own box.
Ooh,
so that way
I love that. That's right. Create your own box. Ooh, I'm writing that down, Jay. That's great.
You never think outside the box because now you're playing with other parameters, and you shouldn't have parameters on your life. Your life is your parameters. You're right. So with that, so then I've learned so much about business and client relationships and understanding the financials and understanding, the SGAs and the P&Ls and things like that. Once he taught me all that, and I thought to myself, I said, well, here's the thing. I have the knowledge of operations from one of the best in the country, and then I have the knowledge of business from the other best in the country. And very few people get this opportunity to be able to fuse those together and become their own boss.
That's
so
right.
What I did, so going back to my family, being smart, learning, being smart, being disciplined, And what they had to teach me, I took it into account and I really paid attention to it. And then I learned how to apply it to my own life. And the crazy thing about it is, both of those guys actually helped me with my company. They
Oh,
actually, yes.
wow. That's a
Yeah,
great
oh, we had a
relationship right there.
yeah, we have a fantastic relationship. I have the utmost respect for Jim Rossini and Juan Ospina. If I tell you there are not two better human beings in the world, I really mean that. They didn't have to take the time to teach me. They didn't have to, but they actually did. They got invested in me, in my success, in my future. They really put the work in. And I remember Jim Rossini always telling me, and he used to tell me all the time, Jay, kicking, crying, screaming, fighting, biting, I'm going to make you successful. You might not like it. It might be uncomfortable, but at the end of it, you're going to be successful. And he really did that.
That's great.
And Juan used to tell me, Jay, I'm going to show you how business works. I'm going to teach you how the business works. So that way you understand the science of business. And
Right.
so, right. So that I learned the science of business. I learned the science of operations with those two guys. So
Wow.
that leads me to yes, it's a crazy story. Uh, and so where we are today is, and so when I decided, I said, well, I really want to step out on faith and really do my own thing. I think I have a good support system. I do have the general knowledge, and the rest of the knowledge have to come from experience. So I started Hunt Services and Consulting. Um, and it's been a beautiful journey. Um, we we started off with my COO, Frank Contreras,
Yeah.
um, and, which is one of my best friends from
That's
childhood.
great.
But Frank he's an absolute genius when it comes to operations. I have not met there's very few people I met that is better in operations than Frank.
Oh,
And
great.
I've been all over the United States, and I dealt with the best of them. There's very few that's better than Frank Contreras. And then my CFO is Anna. And Anna is a fantastic person, and she is seriously about the business. She's about the numbers.
What
And
I have to clap to a
yes,
woman entrepreneur as well, so that's great.
oh yes. Anna Torres. She's one that she's an angel. She's very calm. So, Frank and I, we have a little fire up under us
Yes.
sometimes. We're very, sometimes it's I don't know what it is, but sometimes we get a little ruffled, and her demeanor is so calm. It is so calm, and when she talks, it is so peaceful and calm, and it makes sense. And it's like, okay, what do you think, Anna? And she's like, well, honestly, I think you guys should do this. And I'm like, you know what? That really makes sense.
Yes.
And one thing I wanted to build my company. I wanted my company to be extremely diverse, inclusive, and equal. Um, I would not have it any other way. So I do not believe a man can do this, this, and this, that a woman cannot do it. Yes, she can. Yes, she
Right.
can. How do
Why?
I know? I watched my mother do it. So I know that there's no such thing as just because you're a gender or your ethnic group or your race or it doesn't matter. One thing Jim Rossini taught me, he's very adamant about it. I don't care what a person look like, what they act like. It doesn't matter. My only thing is, can they do the job or not? That's all that matters.
That's
And so
great.
I took it to heart.
Yeah, Jay, I really
So
appreciate that that you do that, because one of the things I always talk about as well, and it's really in fine tune with what you're saying about synergy. It's the whole is greater than the individual parts. So you have a great team that you've established or setting up, right? And a diverse team makes it even more powerful out there. So that's great that you're including that in you as you continue to grow your business. So great.
absolutely. And my image consultant is an African American woman named Takara Robinson, she's the owner of a non-for-profit, and her husband Aaron Robinson, who does my public relations, and they are fantastic. They own Still I Rise, non-for-profit, in which they are actually my clients as well. So yeah, Yeah, so we worked on some grants and things like that together. So just to have that diversity. One thing we was at a meeting. I'm gonna tell you how good it was, Cynthia, and it was
Yes.
it was fantastic. So we were at a meeting, and my my digital my digital manager, he upgraded my website, and one of the things that came up instantly, like, well, where's the Spanish version? There are Hispanic business owners, and if they don't want to read it in English, then what? You just lost potential customers. So instantly, I'm like, that's why I got diversity and inclusion,
Yes.
because I want to make sure that we could touch all bases. I do not want anyone to feel like that we are not a part of them or they are not a part of us. We want to make sure everyone know that they're welcome. Their business is welcome, and them as an individual, you're welcome to come in. If you add value to our company and our goal, and you believe in our core beliefs, but then you're more than welcome to be a part of Hunt Services and Consulting.
That's great. Well, I'm
So
glad to hear that. You have me wanting to go over there too, Jay. That's fantastic. Wow. Great to hear it. And it sounds like you definitely have a very strong foundation, just like your personal family foundation has been strong. You've utilized what you've learned and brought that into the business aspect. And I especially appreciated how you've used the science of operations with the science of business. But that was basically, you had to have mentors to be able to take that and put it on the theory,
absolutely.
first of all, and then put it into practice. So I just want to stress that to anybody listening out there. Mentors are so, so important as you move through
They
this
are.
journey of entrepreneurship, because like you said, it's a journey. There's ups, there's downs, there's ups,
It's
there's downs.
downs. Yes.
You have to weather that ride as we go through that journey, but don't give up. We definitely do not want to give up along this journey, because the fruits of your labor it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So as we can see with that smile, Jay, we can definitely see that you love what you do. You're passionate about it. So that's great. Great.
Oh yes.
So I
And
will.
that comes from my brother. My god brother. Well, I got into I went to school for economics and marketing. So my
Okay.
god brother went to school at Southern University, DeJuan Porter. He went to school for economics, and so one day I asked him. I said, DeJuan, why are you going to school for economics? He was like, because I like money, and you can't get money if you don't understand how it works, nationally, domestically, or internationally. If you don't understand the science of money, then it's called liquid for a reason. It'll slip out your hand. So you have to understand
Wow.
how finances work. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to school for economics. And then I thought, right. So then at the same time, I talked to my oldest brother, Will, and I said, before I talked to DeJuan, because I knew I was going to go do business, but I didn't know what. So I talked to Will. I said, Will, what do you think I should go to school for? He like, business. I'm like, why business? He like, because you never want to lift anything heavier than a briefcase. Why put the wear and tear on your body?
I
And I'm
like
like,
that.
okay. So my brothers, DeJuan and DeJuan is my god brother, and Will is my biological brother. Those two influenced me to get into business.
Well,
Yes.
that's great. And you have some smart brothers around you then, because that's great advice right there. I love that. I definitely want to make sure I take notes on that. Jay, thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm so glad that we've been able to talk about your past, your present, where you are now, right? As far as your particular consulting company, what makes you an expert in this particular field. And it's great. I'm so glad that we were able to learn about that from you. Now, I'm very interested to know about your future. What are your future plans? Because you particularly talked a lot about vision. So I'd like to hear, what's your future legacy about?
You know what? My future legacy. One thing I would love to do is not just for myself, but for any individual who wants it, who want to be disciplined, um, who want to be successful. I want to help them be successful, and in most cases, break generational curses as far as finances and understanding the way of life, and being a better person. Sometimes stress causes us to be. It brings out the worst in us. Uh, we monster not because we're by nature bad people, but sometimes when you don't have a vision, you don't know where to go, you don't know how to get there. It seems like the world is crashing down on you, and then every day that go past, there's more and more responsibilities on you. sometimes it brings out the bad guy in you, for lack of words, because you're in a negative space, you're in a bad space. And I want to be able to help people get to a space where they're comfortable and they understand that there's a different way to do things. There are resources out here. There are avenues. Now, first thing first, you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to make the right decisions.
Yes.
And you got to be consistent, and you got to want it. You got to do it every day. Quick story, Cynthia.
Yes.
About a year and a half,
Yes.
2 years ago, not even that long, about a year and a half ago, I was almost 460 pounds.
What?
Right?
Oh my goodness. I would never imagine that. Wow.
Yes. And I decided, and it was hard for me to breathe. I couldn't help without help. And it was embarrassing. And so one day I just said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to change. So I got me a membership to the gym, and I started off on elliptical, and I just said, I can't go fast because I'm too heavy, but I do have time. So if I could just do it for 1 hour, I'll be okay. And the first day I did it for 1 hour, I don't even think I did a half a mile, but that's okay. That's okay. Because in my mind, that was better than what I've been doing.
Yes.
And with that being said, I've been working out, and I dropped 160 pounds, 170 pounds, something like that. So I do 2-hour workouts. I run 3.5 miles a day. Yes. But that goes back to being disciplined and holding yourself accountable. I let myself go. I wasn't disciplined. I knew it was a health risk. And at the time, I just didn't do anything about it. And then it got to the point where I wanted to do better. And it goes back to anybody in my future, for my future legacy. If you want to do better, it is not easy. The road less traveled is the most difficult one. But if you want it, you will always have a resource and an avenue and a support system to get you to where you want to be. The thing is, you have to be consistent. Yes, you're going to get frustrated sometimes. Yes, you're going to get irritated sometimes. That is part of the process. And if no one ever told you that was part of the process, they was holding valuable information from you, because it's not easy. It's not overnight. It does not work like that. Very few people have the ability to make it happen overnight. Very, very few. But when you look at the rest of them, these are things that took years in the making. Proper preparation, putting things in place, being consistent, networking, just making good alliances, working hard, being smart, keeping your emotions in check, because the emotions will be one of the reasons why you quit, because you think that it's not going to work. But yeah, you have to trust the process. And before you know it, if you look at from where you started, and like a year from now, you're like, you know what, look at the progress that I made. And it goes from being frustrating to being motivating. Like, if I can do this, guess what? Just imagine if I could do another year of this, or 6 more months of this, and you start seeing the results. When I started working out and started losing the weight, when I lost my first 5 pounds, I was like, wow, okay, that feel good, and then I got down, I lost like 80 pounds, and I'm like, wow, that really feel good. And then I got to the weight that I am now, and it's like, you know what? Just imagine if I didn't say I was tired of being where I was at. And it goes out for any entrepreneur. Once you get to the point, or any person, doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, it could be a person who's thinking about being an entrepreneur. Once you get to the point in your life where you say, you know what, I want better. What I want to do is leave an avenue and resources and help people and pull them up, so that way they can be what they want to be and achieve the goals that they want. And that's my whole goal. I want people to be successful. I do not want, now granted, statistically speaking, everyone is not going to make it. But if I could just save one, and then one probably could change the world.
Change the world. That's right. Change the world. That's what it's about. Changing the world, making a positive impact, one person at a time. That's what it comes down to. So that's great. And I'm so glad you touched on that emotional intelligence too. A lot of people don't think that emotional intelligence is even part of the equation, yet it's so important in order to build those relationships, those alliances that you mentioned. And one thing I definitely always stress to people, and I'm glad you have as well as an entrepreneur, we have to celebrate the small successes because those are what lead us to the bigger successes. So I definitely, and you can share that with us from a business perspective and a personal. I mean, wow to your accomplishment. You losing all that weight within the short time period. You know, a year and a half is not a long time. And you've done it like that. So I'm so proud of you for doing that too. And that's part of your journey as you continue to grow as an individual, right? Professionally as well. So thank you for sharing that that journey with us, Jay. And you have so many gems. I cannot wait to review this video and then also in the transcript, because there's so many positive things that you shared with us today about your legacy. You shared your past, you shared your present, and you shared about the future, where you want to be in the future. And I really, it touches my heart the way you talk about leaving an avenue or resources for individuals to be able to utilize so that they can be successful at whatever goals they establish. And that's a key part of your legacy. And I definitely, anything I can do to help you achieve that, I'm definitely here to assist in any way I can. So as we close out here, because we've learned about those different stages of your legacy, what are 3 gems that you would like somebody listening, an entrepreneur, an individual wanting to be an entrepreneur, 3 key points that you want them to take back from today?
3 key points. The first point would be courage. You have to have the courage to believe in yourself. You have to have the courage to step out and do what's not normal, because what you're doing is not normal. Normal is working a 9 to 5 for 40 years and retiring.
Right.
So you can't have that normal mindset, because you are not normal. You're special because you have a different vision. And when you have that different vision, do not let normalcy or complacency hold you from being great. So my first thing would be courage.
Great.
My second thing would be persistence. There's a phrase that a friend of mine used to always tell me, and it helped me through my darkest time. Persistence overcome resistance. So as long as you stay persistent, whatever obstacles that are in your way, you will overcome them. You do not let them defeat you. You take those challenges head on. You look it in the eye and you say, not today. You will not defeat me today. And if you do get the best of me today, not defeat me, I'm going to come back this afternoon and you'll see me in the morning. And guess what? You're going to see me tomorrow afternoon, and you're going to see me day after that, because you're not going to beat me. This is my life. I own and control my life, and I'm going to take my life in the direction that I want it to be. And I'm going to be persistent on being successful.
That's great. Okay.
And the third, and I think the most important, be selfless. Help those who are not able to help themselves. Understand that just because you understand something on a 30,000 feet level doesn't mean they understand something on a 10-foot level. So come down to their level and try to help them, and be patient with them. You know, be compassionate. You know, just because you're having a certain level of success, you wasn't always at that point. Someone had to help you. And don't forget that the same person who helped you, you are now in that road to help the next person. So be selfless, be compassionate, you know, be a human. Just be human. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
I think sometimes people forget that. So I'm glad you bring that up, Jay. And those 3 pieces that you mentioned, ingredients, steps that we should take, those are critical for us to be successful on a continual level, right? Not just now or today, but continue to do that. And I would say that's courage, as you mentioned, persistence, and being selfless. Those 3 things are critical in order to be successful. So thank you for sharing those with us, Jay. And I really enjoyed hearing more about your story. And I'm so glad we were able to connect today on Legacy and Me podcast, because this podcast is all about sharing stories, sharing people's legacy, so that we can learn from that and make ourselves better individuals. And I can tell you today, I will be a better person by being able to interact with you, definitely. And especially, I love creating my own box. I'm creating my own box. I'm not stepping out of it. I'm creating one. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Jay, thank you again for taking the time to be a part of this podcast, Legacy and Me podcast, because we all have a legacy in us, and it's very important to share that. So any last words before we close out, Jeremy? Jermaine,
Yes.
sorry for Jeremy. Sorry, Jay.
That's okay. Yeah, I think what you're doing, Cynthia, is absolutely fantastic and necessary. Um, People don't understand that legacy, that word right there is so powerful. They don't understand what legacy means. And for you to be able to create an avenue so people legacy could be preserved. Just think about history. A friend of mine once told me, the way you become immortal is never to be forgotten. And you're keeping people legacies alive, which is keeping them immortal because they can always find who was this person. So I think my closing remarks would be thank you, not for just having me on the show, but thank you for the work that you're doing because it's so important and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. And I'm here for you in any way I can help, Jay. I can see that this will be a lifelong collaboration and connection. So I look forward to working with you in the
Absolutely.
future. Our paths will cross again. I know that. So thank you so much. And really appreciate you having you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my
All right,
pleasure.
you have a good one.
You too. So this is Cynthia Gallardo, your leading legacy lady with Legacy and Me and podcast, and I'm signing off. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for Jay for being here today. Have a great day.